I've got a pretty vivid imagination when I'm designing, if I'm building something for myself, like a cut-off machine, or when I make garden boxes, for example, you're cutting galvanised corrugated iron. Well, I got no chance of using tin snips to cut across corrugated iron, so I designed a sliding mechanism with a 5-inch angle grinder in it on bearings, etc., etc. You clamp your corrugated iron onto the table and just slide the angle grinder along across the corrugations. It cuts it nicely, and a few things like that. So you just imagine stuff that is going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty easy.
And what's a memory that you have that gives you the most pleasure? You sort of think if you're telling war stories at the pub, you get to that final story at the end and before everyone goes home. What's yours?
We had a couple of funny incidents when I was working for real funny incidents when I was working for the police department. A good friend of mine, Constable Les Hall, he used to play for East Perth, bit of a plug there, and he was a real good friend of mine. And quite often on a Friday evening, about once a month, we go up to the prison when it was at Fremantle, and they'd have sundowners up there with the prison officers and whatever. Used to love it. It was terrific. Telling war stories and lies and all sorts of stuff. And Les had this monumentally powerful Monaro. And during the evening, we'd had a couple of lemonades, and one of the prison officers come up to Les, and Les was a big fella. He poked him in the chest and he said, "I've been watching you. You've been drinking and you're going to drive." And because the prison officer didn't know me that well, and I had my white stick in the back pocket under my jacket. And he said, "Hang on a minute, me mate here's driving me home, so get back in your box." So he got back in his box. Then about an hour later, Hawley said, "You ready?" I said, "Yep." So I didn't get the stick out, of course. So we walked out just sort of nudging each other to the car, and I went round to the driver's side and he got in the passenger side. And then we backed out and he put his arm down under, they couldn't see it, he was holding the wheel and I had my hands up on the wheel.
Oh, no.
And then as we were going past because all the prison officers knew what was going on apart from this bloke, and I got my white stick out and dropped it out, hung it out the window and started tapping along the driveway. And he never lived that down.
That's amazing.
And another funny incident similar to that was we'd been down at a mate's place in Mandurah at Peter Smith's place, and we got a bit hungry after a couple of lemonades, and we went to our Hungry Jack's and had our food and whatever. We were walking back, and he said, "Give us your stick." So I gave him the white stick and assisted him into the driver's seat, and I walked around the other side without the stick, of course. And we started to back out, and Smithy said, "You ought to see the look on that woman's face just next to me." She said, "A blind bloke driving the car." She said the look was priceless.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So you can have a bit of fun.
Yeah, so much fun. And it sounds like you had a lot of fun with it on the sporting field as well. Can you tell us a little about your sporting career, what you sort of played?
Yeah, I was pretty active. We played blind cricket when I was younger. I was pretty good at athletics. I wrestled competitively for 10 or 12, 14 years.
Wow.
Got a state title in 75, open title, not a blind thing. I was fortunate enough to be selected in what they call the Paralympics now in 1976. Went to Canada, fluked a silver medal in the high jump.
Whoa.
And I owed that to my brother. He was a very good high jumper.
Yeah.
And he taught me how to do it. We did a mattress drive around Gosnells about 6 months before we went away.
Yeah.
So you could have mattresses to land on when we were training. And so he taught me how to do the high jump.
The old Fosby flop.
That's it. And I wasn't very happy because I got beaten by 2 centimetres by the American jumper, but he had been doing it for about 10 years. I'd only been doing it for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that was a bit disappointing, but it was a good experience.
Yeah. And how does that work? How does, especially blind cricket? I mean,
but the balls have changed a hell of a lot. We started playing when they were literally made out of cane. So you had to soak them first so they'd tighten up. Then years later, they were made out of nylon, exactly the same design, but they were made out of thick nylon. You didn't have to soak them. They had lead bottle tops and stuff in there so you could hear them. And now they actually made out of, it's a plasticky material and it's a solid ball. So it's a lot easier to bowl with and throw and whatever. So things have changed a hell of a lot. So
and so you're just listening to the sound of the ball through the air?
There's nothing quieter than a stopped ball when you're chasing it. You don't get close enough to and you think, where the hell is it? And so you've got to help. So you hope somebody sighted out there can find the damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. But it's because I heard when, they used to say that when Warnie balled, you could hear it spinning through the air, like fizzing. And is that something when you're batting, is that something you're listening for?
Not so much with the newer ball, but with the older woven ball, yeah, you could hear it a little bit. But the newer one, no, it's just purely the baffles inside you can hear moving around.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's remarkable. And so you've got a silver medal, an Olympic silver medal hanging up somewhere. What have you done with that?
I've never clue. It's in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything for me, mate. It's just, yet by the same token, Carol and I took up 10-pin bowling. Oh, going back about 15 years now, I suppose, maybe more, maybe 20 years ago. And we used to go to Fair Lanes and, that was an effort, carrying the 3 bowling balls, 2 pairs of shoes on the bus. Oh, dear. And we did that for quite a while. We got selected in the WA team to go to Sydney for the Australian Championships.
Wow.
And Carolyn and I got 9 gold medals between us.
Sure.
And she got 5 of them. And so I've built a big bar in our family room. And I would have at least probably 15 or 20 trophies of Carolyn's because she was a very, very good, almost state net and softball player.
Yeah.
So I've got all her trophies up there and I put mine in a box. So
that's incredible. And a bowling alley is such an aesthetically pleasing place in terms of, there's a lot of sensory things going on, the sound and the rattle and
the music they play that loud. It's very off-putting, but I built some handrails, which we put along the side of the run-up.
Yeah.
So you could keep your left or right hand, whichever you happen to be.
Yeah.
Your back of your hand on the rail. So you do your 4 paces of run-up.
Yeah.
So you could line yourself up dead down the centre of the alley. So
I gotcha.
Yeah. So it was pretty easy.
And so you guys took it out because you were clearly collaborating with technique. And coming up with tips and things that you could do.
Yeah, it was just you learn to adjust, your walk or your stance or the balance or your run up or the way you move your hand and that sort of thing.
It sounds like you have a very interesting interaction with adversity.
Yeah, we just got on with it. I mean, as I say, I was lucky. I didn't have to make any adjustments. Carolyn had to, and she adapted exceptionally well. We went everywhere. We went to New Zealand. We went with the Whitsundays for our honeymoon. We hired a yacht, a hostess and a skipper. And we went to Tasmania and a few other places. And then one of my copper friends, Steve and Gloria, his wife, and Carolyn and I, we hired a 40-foot catamaran and sailed around the Whitsundays on our own. It was great for a week.
Oh, man, just sunbaking and cocktails.
We'd pull into an inlet or a bay at night time at anchor, have a couple of lemonades, go swimming and whatever. And I remember one day a place called Nara Inlet. I'll never forget that. And we went swimming and come in and had a beer and a barbecue and Steve got the brochure out and he said, should have read this before. I said, what? He said, known breeding ground for hammerhead sharks. So we enjoyed that. That was terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. And with achievements and everything and everything you've created, what's your proudest moment?
Probably, well, apart from meeting and marrying Carolyn, probably getting this connection device so that she could be independent and, prolong her life while she was waiting for transplant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is such a remarkable thing to sit down and think of in one night and then pretty much have it ready to go.
Well, she was a bit concerned because I was up there for 2 or 3 hours. She thought he's gone and hung himself or something. Oh. And she called me, Wombat, where are you? And I said, I'll be back in a little while. And then I showed her the gadget and she was, surprised.
Skeptical at first?
A little bit. But then when I demonstrated it to her, she, it's good. The rest is history.
It's so remarkable. Now, you've got a very Australian way. I think it's almost something that Australians have forgotten that we have, like an Anzac spirit or sort of a toughness and a grit, but also a larrikinism. Is that something you think about Australia, what it is to be an Australian?
Well, I'm pretty proud of being an Australian. I've never really thought about it much. It's a good place to come home to. I know that.
Yeah.
When I was away, when we went to New Zealand and all that sort of thing in America, it's always a good place to come home to your friends and family and whatever. So, no, I've never really thought about it, Simon.
Now, what about music? What is that? I mean, is that something that you're into? Do you pay more attention to, anything that the average person would listen to? Yeah,
we used to have a little folk group when I was a kid, young bloke. We had guitars and things and mucked around with Kumbaya and the Seekers, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And did that for a few years on and off. And now I've acquired a new mobile phone, which I'm able to, specially designed in Czechoslovakia. It's called a blind shell. And it's an amazing piece of gear. And it's a smart dumb phone, basically. And it's got emails and messaging and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. And I've got all my music that I've downloaded from YouTube, which I can Bluetooth through to my big stereo system.
Wow.
And so if I'm just sitting there reminiscing about previous times, I'll, play my music or search for different stuff.
Yeah, and it triggers the memory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Some good, some sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And and smells as well, like, what do they say, freshly cut lawn or fresh baking bread or something like that.
Coffee brewing. Yeah, I've just bought a new coffee percolator, so I don't drink much coffee at home, but unless I have visitors again, a bit like the lights.
Imagine what you'd do if you drank coffee, though. Imagine how much stuff you'd be inventing and winning and doing things.
Yeah, no, technology now, it's an amazing. I showed you the colour test machine, and I've showed you my talking tape measure and all that sort of stuff. So technology and my computer at home is the technology on the computers has come in leaps and bounds over the last 10 or 15 years. And we had investment properties. Carol and I had investment properties. We had 9 at one stage together, and she managed all of them. She had about 6 Excel spreadsheets for each property, one with lease, one with maintenance, one with whatever. And then she had them all printed out in folders. So we went to the accountant, and Peter said, well, I don't need to look at that, I'll just sign off. She was that good, and that's why I wish I'd listened to her when she's trying to show me how to do stuff.
Yeah.
But technology, it's incredible now.
And what was something that came along that really changed the game?
Probably the new JAWS programs and the optical character recognition programs. So if I get mail, I'll just put it in my flatbed scanner, open the Kurzweil, reading system, and within about 20 seconds, it's reading it to me. So
wow,
it's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Jeez. And so that when you first, how do you discover this thing? Because you're saying in Czechoslovakia, they're making it in Austria. How do you get onto this? Is there a network or a community?
Well, I'm on a list called VIPEL, against vision impaired something or other, and you get all little bits of info coming through. And about 2.5 years or 3 years ago now, this blind shell was invented, but unfortunately it wasn't compatible with the Australian networks. So I emailed Teresa, can't pronounce her name, in Czechoslovakia, and I said, look, you need to do something about your next model to make it compatible with our system. I gave them all the frequencies and whatever. So about 2 years later, probably November 2 years this year it'll be, I got an email from Quantum Technology in Sydney saying the new blind shell is out, it's compatible with Australia, it'll be here in about another month or so.
Oh.
So I rang them and I said, when's it due? She said, I'm not really sure yet. And I said, well, I'll ring you back. She said, why don't you order it now, because we're not sure, how many we're going to get and whatever. So I ordered it and paid for it then. And within about 3 weeks, I had it and never looked back. It's the most amazing phone that I've ever used. See, as you can see, it's a dumb smartphone.
Yeah, kind of looks like a Nokia, like an oldish Nokia.
Yeah, it is. And it hasn't got a touch screen as such, but it's got a very good visual screen for people with low vision.
Yeah. And
it's all done by a keypad, and it talks, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, fantastic.
I can send texts like Siri does on an iPhone.
Yeah.
You can send text by voice or type it out on the keypad. You can do all that sort of stuff.
Are you ready for the next generation, the next leap in technology with this AI stuff that's coming out?
I don't know. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. It isn't. Like, I don't think it's replacing humans' creativity and all the skill sets and basically everything that you have.
Yeah.
But I do think it's good for logic problems.
It will be very good for that. I probably won't be around long enough to experience much of it, but yeah, it's a bit scary, but it's incredible. Some clever people out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just thinking in your career, what you've seen, when you even just if you look at just Gosnells, what that looks like now compared to what it used to look like back in the day.
I wouldn't know it. We had very single lane roadways. We had ditches about 5 foot deep around. We just kept jilgies in and climb trees, and now it's all built up. In fact, in our block, which was Fremantle Road, Hicks Street, Walter and Wheatley, my sister's house, which she built in about 66, it's the only single dwelling house left in that whole block. They're all units and apartments, and And plus along the Albany Highway areas, all the old shops have gone, and I just wouldn't know the place now.
Absolutely. Can we get a demonstration of your knowledge of Fremantle? If I throw out a couple of places, so we're sitting